Welcome to the channel, people. For these high-end DIYs, I want the cheapest wood I can get in the size I need. And while $5.45 is a great deal for a 1x3, which is what I need for the first DIY, it's not my cheapest option. However, common boards are amazing because they are clean and cut, ready to use, and all around just saves you time. So if you don't have a ton of tools and a ton of time at your disposal, these are a great option for you. We, however, are going to use these furring 1x3 wood strips, which need to be sanded. They're uneven, but your girl has a ton of tools and a ton of time. Plus, they're $2.68. So I am saving $2.77 by putting a little elbow grease in it. To sand down the rough bits, I'm using an 80 grit sandpaper with my orbital sander. This is the sander that I use. If you do not have this, one of these sheet sanders will work, or don't be afraid to put in some elbow grease and get one of these plastic hand sanders. You can switch out the paper. I would not recommend using one of these block sanders because they have some give, and these furring strips need a firm press to really knock off all those hard edges. Even though I'm going for a little bit of a rustic look, I'm following up with a 220 grit to make it softer to work with. And in case no one has warned you, be careful these swirly marks. If you use an orbital sander, pressing too hard from one side to the other can create them. So gentle pressure, people, gentle pressure. For this first DIY, we are going to cut two 10-inch boards with our 1x3 pieces of wood, and then two 7-inch boards with our 1x3 pieces of wood. This is the only part I'm going to show you where we are using our antique Waverly wax to stain this. Wanted to keep this really simple, budget friendly, and something most of my DIYers probably have in their house. We all love our antique Waverly wax, okay? So I thought, let's just use this on everything. Why not? Plus, I like rustic stuff, and I like how this looks. Now, remember them swirly marks? My wood has it in there, and the reason I wasn't stressing is because this is rustic, and the more beat up and worn these are, the more I love it. So, again, you're worried about it, be mindful of it. I wasn't worrying about it for these projects because this is a look I'm going for. The more it looks wore out, the happier I am. Once the project is dry, you're going to want to attach all your pieces. Now, how you accomplish that is completely up to you. I'm using a nail gun and wood glue for this. If you want to use a drill or screws, or you want to just use a hammer and some nails, have at it. Whatever makes you feel fuzzy inside. People, I will support it. We're keeping this nice and simple and literally just attaching them on the ends. We're not cutting no 45s. You could totally do that if you want to, but we are not. I want you, if you just have a miter box and basic tools, you're going to be able to make these items. Now, once your box is complete and your wood glue is dry or your nails are in there, we're going to start with the fun stuff. Look at these little branches I got from Dollar Tree. Who has seen these at Dollar Tree? Are you sleeping on Dollar Tree? They got these branches that are painted and they're all different colors, and I love them. So I bought these a while ago to put these in here. We're going to dig out a little hole. Not a huge hole, a little hole. You could use a drill bit for this, you know, a knife, honestly, an X-Acto, something. I have these little tools, so I just started scribbling, you know, clawing at the wood and getting us a space. So I'm clipping them down to size, and then I'm making sure they're kind of tight where I gotta kind of force them in the top. Once I put the wood glue in there at the bottom to have the thick part of the stem in there, so this way I knew once it dried it wasn't going anywhere. And look at this, it's so cool. Now, not every piece, you see that little gap right there, not every piece touch the top, but make sure that they touch the top, at least some of them. And then I came back and hit the top part with a small amount of glue. See how tiny this amount of hot glue is? This is just so it holds in place while that hot glue has time to set. So I did this for each one of these, and when I was all done putting the branches in, I came back with the wood glue and then hit them where all the branches overlapped or touched one another to make sure none of these were going anywhere. Added some fairy lights for a little bit of ambiance, and that was it for this one. next project, we're going to get a 1x4, and these furring strips are in worse shape than the 1x3s, but I'm gonna have to suck that up because they're only $3.48. And we're gonna start this off the same way we did the 1x3 with the 80 grit, and then follow it up with a 220 grit for that soft finish. Cut 2 10-inch pieces, and then mark at 1.5 inch and cut us 8 pieces at 1.5 inches. So when you're done, you'll have 2 10-inch boards, and then you'll have 8 little bits. See, little bits, we're gonna need 8 of these. And they're gonna go on here like this. There's a good reason I didn't attach them and stain them right away, because I wanted the wood to be on wood when I was putting the wood glue on there. I just feel like the bond is way stronger than if I do it with the wax or after it's painted. So I decided to go about it, you know, layering the wood glue, hitting it with the nail gun, layering with the wood glue until I had this. Once I had this, I then went back in with the wood glue one more time and then put our nails in from the top. Again, you can use whatever you want to use, your screws, your nails, your hammer, whatever's easiest for you, that can be done with this very project as well. And of course I run out of nails when I just need one more, but you know. Struggle of my life. Once it was dry, I came back in and finished it up with the Antique Waverly wax. Let that dry, and then those of you who are not new to me know I mess with stain art, and you've seen me do this before. Most of the time I'll do it before I wax, but since I'm sanding this afterwards, I'm just taking some blue custom stain and gently painting in some very thick lines in the wood grain. Now it's a little bit messy, but it's not going to matter because we're going to go over this with a sandpaper, and it's really going to cut out all of the blur and just leave some of that color in those wood grains, and it's just absolutely beautiful. To tie in some of that color to the sides, because we have those blocks holding all the sides together, I'm just doing a little bit of stencil art, and the wood pieces are uneven, so I'm not using a sponge or anything like that. You'll have a tremendous amount of bleed. This is very intricate and a little painstaking, but it is worth doing it with a paintbrush. I had everything to complete this piece, so all I had to purchase was the wood. I did add hangers and little cup holders at the bottom. For our next project, we're going to use a 1x8, and it is $3.22 for a linear foot. Now, we're only going to need 1 foot, and these boards are really nice, just like the common boards. They're pretty finished, okay? And I'm saving myself a little bit of elbow grease. This is a smaller piece because, as you can see, some are really long, so I'm just going to pick this up, and I'm going to ask for help from Home Depot. So for those of you who don't have tools, or you don't have, or want to waste your time cutting it down, they'll do it for you. To start this project out, because we're creating a nail piece of art, you're going to want to poke your holes in there, try and create some type of outline. If you want to stencil something on here, you know, do that. I freehanded this little jar type looking decor with this little plucker. Looked for my hammer, couldn't find my little small hammer. I don't know where it is. My house is a DIY catastrophe is what it is. And I decided to use the little needle nose pliers that are usually used to hold the tiny nails in place, and use the flat part to hammer in. Yep. It was just this for an hour and a half. This was my life. So I used a pair of tweezers, or, you know, whatever I used these little tweezer things for to hold my nails, and then use the flat part, and I just carried on. You do you. I would suggest not doing nail art. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I will tell you, I had a napkin picked out for this project. I bought the napkin a hot minute ago. I knew this was something I wanted to make. I had it in my mind. I was like, we're doing it today. And it turned out okay. I mean, look at it. It's not bad. However, once I got my napkin, I didn't bother to measure it. you know, before I made my nail art. And as I started putting the pieces together, it was too small of a piece of nail art. So then I had to start, you know, plucking the nails out the bottom that I worked so hard to get into place. So this way my napkin, which was the whole reason that I was making this in the first place, would fit on my jar. So the moral of the story is, if you do this DIY, make sure that your napkin will fit what you're doing so you don't have to go back and rip out pieces. It turned out fine. However, learn from my mistakes, as I usually tell you. Learn from them, because oh my gosh, I was so mad at myself, this whole thing. Now, there, in my opinion, is no right or wrong way to wiggle your string around your nails to get the nail art effect. I literally just kind of wrap it around, squiggle it back and forth, and I'll do 2 or 3 layers just to ensure that it's on the nails and it's not going to just pop off. I do like to finish up the ends with a little bit of Gorilla Glue gel just to make sure that they're holding on there. And then I went in to give this a little bit of a 3D look, layering some antique Waverly wax and some white chalk paint, and then followed it up with just 3 solo wood flowers at the top and painted on the stems. You could use some dowels for some stems, you could use some metal for some stems, a little metal floral wire. I just decided I was going to paint them on there. And all in all, I really like how this one turned out. What do you think?
On a run from a given disaster, speed away from the holy mind, pride. That's where I never thought it would matter if I'm gone back.
For this project, you can use a 1x4, a 1x6, a 1x8. This is a 1x4, and I cut it to about 7 inches. I'm gonna take some white twine. Use whatever you have on hand. In the prices, it is exactly what I spent on like the wood or anything extra that I didn't have on hand. Most of these are all easy enough that you can just grab something you have laying around the house to create the look that I'm giving you. I'm taking some solo wood flowers. I dyed one blue, and then I'm using Gorilla Glue gel to attach them to where the twine is, so that way it hides all the frame. A little laser cutout at the bottom from Dollar Tree. You could use a stencil or leave it plain. It looks fine that way too. A picture. These are my babies. They are younger in this one. I got me 2 teenagers on my hands now, people. My son is going to kill me if he knows I put this in a video. And that's it for this one. I didn't include a price on the last one because I used the same 1x4 I had already purchased. These are also from the same 1x3 I purchased. However, I did have to purchase tubes for these, so that puts our price up. I painted these each 3 different colors. You can do them all the same. There's nothing wrong with that. Let them dry, and then sanded them down and give them a little bit of a rustic look, and hammered in a sawtooth hammer and hanger on the back. These tubes are from Hobby Lobby, and they are $2.99 each, which I did use a coupon on one, so it kept my price barely under $5. But yeah, $2.99 each, because we needed 3. You could do 1 and then just spend $2.99, but I am doing 3. So I had this metal piece laying around from Hobby Lobby and figured we were going to just use this. If you don't want to spend $6 on this sheet, then just go to Dollar Tree. They do have galvanized metal pieces. Cut you a string like this to wrap around your metal tube or your tube. And actually, Dollar Tree has little glass tubes like this too, so you can even save on the tubes. I just happen to particularly want these exact tubes, so you can literally grab the products from Dollar Tree and save even more if you do that. I've used this little bit to drill in holes on the side, and then had tiny little screws to screw in, and this way I know my tube is not going anywhere with this galvanized metal holding it in place. I really love how the three of these turned out, and I feel like the colors complement each other. This would look amazing even with stencils or raised stencil on them too. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, people. You'll have to let me know in the comments which one of these is your favorite. You know I love chatting with all of you. I hope you got some learning or some entertainment at least out of it. Until next time,